Good day. My name is Noel Bethea, and I'm applying for an English language arts position. I am certified in English 6 through 12 in New Jersey, North Carolina, and I have applied for reinstatement, which I got a letter for approval based on getting fingerprinted for my English 6 through 12 in Florida. I'm going to start with teaching methods and strategies. Number 3, how do you incorporate technology in the classroom? Since I have a master's in educational technology, technology is very important to me. It is the vehicle in which I deliver instruction as well as assess it. I have used a variety of tools in my English 1 class as well as my AP Language and Composition class. One of the tools I want to talk about is commonlit.org. It's a great tool for assessing students' lexile, showing growth in that student's reading, both in literature and informational passages. And it also has embedded in that program differentiation for learning for different students. The evaluations tool gives me a graphic as well as a skill by skill assessment of each student. So it's a great tool for seeing where my students are, where they need to go, and a way to specify a skill just for that student, which is a great tool. Before, we had to get centers and make sure each student is at a different level, and this tool is just wonderful. The second question under teaching methods and strategy, number 4, describe strategies I use that encourage higher order thinking. I'm going to refer back to my AP Language and Composition. I'm a seminars in my AP Language and Composition class because it helps students think about how they're thinking. And I use a 3-tier level of questioning. One level is for comprehension, the second level is for clarification, and the third level is to connect and evaluate the ideas that we're discussing. It is a student-led learning activity. They have opportunity to speak and share with their peers, and I'm just an observer, which is a great way for me to kind of take myself out of that learning environment but still be present in the moment. I also have a rubric to assess their learning where I observe, but also they observe one another. So as the students are talking, their colleague or their peer is assessing their questions and have the 3 tiers of questioning. Finally, when the Socratic seminar ends, I have a moment where they can go to Google Classroom and reflect on the experiences. What's the glows? What's the grows? What's the aha moment in that lesson? And from those, anecdotal evidence, I can need to go in our learning. Language composition is really geared for higher level thinking, and a lot of times our students are not used to it. So this is a great pre-writing activity for my students. I'm going to go into now student engagement. Question number 9. What are some specific techniques and strategies I found to be successful with an unmotivated student? Well, I have tried many because each student is different, so not one strategy works for a universal situation. So one of the best strategies that I start with is the conferencing, a one-on-one conferencing with my student. Letting he or she speak about what their frustrations are, what their goals are. You'd be surprised, even a middle school student can tell you, I'm frustrated because I don't know, or I need help in this. From that strategy, I'm able to work out a plan with that student. Okay, well, I give them my expectations. I give them a time limit to meet those expectations. And from that, I enlist the help of parents. I think parent support is invaluable in setting up an educational plan. Those strategies, I feel, help students that may just sit back and let education come to them or their learning come to them. And I really want my students to embrace learning and to take ownership of it. So conferencing is one of those strategies that I go with first. The other one I think is really important is collaboration. Groups either by partners or in a triad with specific roles, specific tasks, and evaluation of those tasks is important. sometimes, especially in the high school freshman year, working with their peers is a little bit easier than working with an adult. But again, I have set the expectations. There is a rubric in place to assess those expectations, and there is some type of um, outcome that they have to fulfill. I found those two probably my go-to in every situation that I've been involved in. And number 10 kind of is a nice segue. How do I provide opportunities for students to assess their own learning? Um, I feel that's important for all students, either with an exit ticket before they leave, 3, 2, 1. What are 3 things you learned, 2 questions you have, and what's one more thing you want to connect that to? Another thing is I do a lot of polls, informal polls, after I have introduced a topic or at the end of a unit. From those polls, I get data that can help me with future lessons. Also, it can show me where there's gaps, and from that information, I can plan for learning in the future. All right, I'm going now on to classroom environment. I think I skipped around a little bit, but I am going back to number 5. What aspects of are essential for maximum learning? I have a credo that I believe in, kindness, caring, and consideration. I live by that. My students adhere to that. And then from there, we can make a better world. I really, truly believe education is the foundation for our society. Therefore, we have to teach our students to be concerned, critical thinking citizens. And from that, how can I find the outcomes of that? Well, it's displayed in everyday behavior and having courtesy and cleaning up the environment, caring for one another. If someone's sick, they're taking notes and sharing those notes with the person who was absent the previous day. This kind of kind, caring, and considerate atmosphere that I am placing upon my students is a means for them to take these skills, these character education skills, into the real world. And that's my goal for that. Management style is for to set my expectations day one. They know my expectations. I follow through equitable with those. And if a student doesn't meet those expectations, I ask them why, and I don't let it just slide. Either with the classroom procedures, with grading policies. Policies, for example, is tardy work. If a student misses a deadline, he or she will be assessed 15 points. Now, they still can turn it in the next day because, in life we don't make. With your light bill, if you miss your light bill, you are going to be assessed a $25 fee. And that's how I explain to the students, I'm preparing you for a real world. I have real world expectations. We have real world consequences. I still love you. I still care about you. But this is my expectation. Turn your work on time. That's one example of how I create this society in my classroom that has a checks and balances. We set these high expectations, but we still have a means for them to, if they do fall or they do fail, that they can fail forward, that they can still, do well in the course. Especially with my AP students who are so grade conscious, this gives them an opportunity to be successful without detrimenting their grade. The outcome of it has been very rewarding because I have a clear expectation. So when there are problems arise, I go back to my syllabus. The parents has signed it, the student has signed it, proposed it, and also followed through with it throughout the semester. So I really don't have any questions at the end of the semester when the grades do come out because the student is aware at all times of my grading policy. All right, so now we're going to go to planning for instruction and professional responsibility. I've kind of alluded in number 12 about how I use data to drive my instruction. And I think numbers are a great way to kind of give you a quick look, but I think anecdotal evidence is just as important. The the attitudes and values of my students are just as important as this concrete data. Student achievement is usually determined by socioeconomics. The only other, not the only other, but one other important factor that we can help our students achieve if they don't have that advantage of being socioeconomically sound is by reading. And through reading for pleasure, for their self-selected novels, they can help in turn their reading level, which will in turn help their testing scores. I believe that skills, the knowledge, and the confidence to do well on these tests, and I'm very pleased that I've done rightly by my students because they do well. On the AP exam, I have over a 60% pass rate in a rural, high poverty school. In my North Carolina final assessments, I have a 98% pass rate. Again, am I teaching the test? No, I'm giving them the skills, the values, and the attitudes necessary to be successful and to have that confidence to do well. If 50% or more did test, I would rate in a different way. My mom, who's an educator, said that if all your change, like different from the 2000s. So the professional educator, I need, how can I disseminate the information in a way that's meaningful for them? How do my professional development is, and also, going to these conferences and seeing what I'm doing, this affirmation that I'm doing is still relevant, as well as learning the new tools of the trade. Most recently, I've been part of the AP Institute in the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. Again, I was thrilled that I saw what I was doing was right and that it had grounds, data-driven theories. It was just an affirmation of what I'm doing. And also I got to network with people whom I still communicate with and we share. And it's this learning community that's across the state of North Carolina that's very impressive, as well as it's good to know that there's people who share the commonality with you. The expectations of a principal is, I've worked under a lot of different leaders, and the most successful leaders that I have found in education are those who listen, who have a clear goal and expectations of not only their staff and faculty, but of the students as well, and that have a shared responsibility of leading with the principal who has interpersonal skills and can make him or her available to is important. It's important